Apostle, in its most simple definition, is someone who's sent. So the goal of this show, this program, is to shed light on the work that God is doing through his people, through testimonies.
Every true Christian is sent. It's just a matter of where.
But that cocaine really got a hold of me. I wound up pretty much homeless. I had probably been arrested 15 times by now for different things. 85% of the incarceral population has either substance use disorder or mental health or a combination of both. Yet there is zero supports for people, education, anything, any wraparound services for people so that they leave stable. In their mind, we're bad people, not sick people. There's no corrections in corrections. You're a bad person, you made a choice, deal with it. You don't like it in jail, don't come back, is the general attitude.
Yeah.
There's no conversation around why someone's in jail, right? And I'll tell you what, man, a combination of these things lit a fire in me, and I started having conversations with God, and there is no doubt in my mind what I was supposed to do leaving this jail.
Ben, thank you so much for being here, for agreeing to do this, and really it's hearing what God has done through you. So before I start asking you some questions, I gotta list off this rap sheet. This is just his bio. Just the beginning section is the bio, which I absolutely love this. So Benjamin is the Center Staff Supervisor for Healing Springs Recovery, Community, and Outreach Center. You supervise a team of 12 peer professionals working in varied settings throughout Saratoga County. You hold certifications you hold a CRPA certification, which is Certified Recovery Peer Advocate, CJSR, Criminal Justice Supported Recovery Professional, CARC, Certified Addiction Recovery Coach, and then PSP, Peer Supervision Professional. We've gotten this far. I'm going to keep going. This is a testament of God, really, of just this whole rap sheet is impressive. You spearheaded the development of the Medication-Assisted Treatment Program, the Recovery Unit, and Re-Entry Program for Saratoga County Correctional Facility. And the program is recognized by the Office of Addiction Services and Supports as a best practice for corrections facilities in New York State. And you were invited as a subject matter expert to assist New York Certification Board in the development of the Criminal Justice Supported Recovery Professionals, CJSR certification. You also are on faculty at All Rise and the owner of Ben Deeb Training and Consulting and co-developer of a 20-hour training, Peer Professionals in Correctional Justice Settings, How Recovery-Oriented Peer Services Reduce Risk and Promote Change, which is approved by the New York State Certification Board for 20-hour fundamental requirement for CJSR certification. And to date, Benjamin and his training partner, Deb Rhodes, have trained 275 peer professionals working in the justice settings in New York, Massachusetts, and Vermont. That's an impressive rap sheet. And so what I want to know, your path that brought you into the depths of addiction, of chemical substance abuse and addiction, prison, jail time. You did, well, the other elements of your rap sheet. Long-term recovery after 25 years of active use, 10 years of which you spent in and out of jails and prisons in New York and Florida. So the goal here is to hear what brought you on that path down to the very bottom and where God met you, and then the process that he's brought you back to the point where he's using you in all these ways.
All right.
That was a very long introduction, but we'll hear from you. So to begin with, talk to us about your path, how all of this started.
Okay. So I grew up in Scotia. I had a brother and sister, and we had a nice house.
Yeah.
I was always sick, so I had really bad asthma when I was a kid. I think I was 10 before I had a birthday at home. I was always in the hospital in October when the leaves fell. So that in itself, looking back, created some trauma for me, right? My mother had to quit being a nurse to take care of me. I think my dad resented that, but we took foster kids. So there was me, my brother and sister, and then 3 children that weren't technically family living in our house. Me being the youngest of my siblings, having 3 extra children, created this dynamic where I really didn't feel seen, heard. It made my dad really uncomfortable. He had a lot of anger, lack of patience. So him and I had a really bad relationship. So as soon as I hit probably 13 years old, I started hanging out with older kids, my brother's friends, grown men. And I wanted to find that validation in them, right? So I was seeking my family in other places. And I always felt like I had something to prove. I had to feel needed. I had to feel like I was the one throwing the party. I had to be the life of the party. I had to be that guy. That created a lot of problems for me.
What'd that lead to?
Well, I got thrown out of junior high for assaulting my guidance counselor because I was fighting a kid in the hallway, and he came up behind me and grabbed me, and I spun around and hit him before I realized it was a teacher. So that landed me in Christian Brothers Academy, which is an all men's high school, right? Military high school. Those kids had more money than we did. They could afford to buy drugs and party, and most of them were just dropped off at school. They didn't have much guidance at home. That's where my drug progression started. I started doing cocaine and smoking pot.
How old were you when you started doing that?
13, 14
years old. Okay.
Yeah. I remember my mother finding a quarter pound of marijuana, which is 4 ounces, under my mattress when I was 14, and sending me to my first treatment center. Okay. So I was in an inpatient treatment center at 14 years old.
Okay.
So they had realistically thrown me out of Scotia schools, period. I went from that treatment center to a halfway house for kids. It was called Hill House in Albany. So while I was going to school there, living there, trying to figure out how to live, it didn't go well. They wound up asking me to leave there as well.
Wow.
Yeah, so at 14, I had been to 2 treatment centers. 15 years old, I got arrested at I think it was a Price Chopper in Guilderland for trying to buy fake alcohol, and then when they didn't sell me the alcohol, assaulting the clerk, right? So they sent me to Albany County Jail for 6 months.
How old were you then?
16.
16 years old. And did you know the Lord at all in this process?
So when I was younger, I was going to a place called Trinity Presbyterian Church, and I was actually involved in a youth group. I think the only thing that prolonged this progression was that youth group.
Yeah.
And we went to Puerto Rico, did some mission work, built a school there. But I definitely turned and walked away from God at that point.
So 16.
16, I'm in Albany County. That was a pretty rude awakening for me. I thought I was tough, right? Albany is a very diverse jail. And I was an upper class Caucasian male in this jail, so it was very uncomfortable for me.
Were you in the general mix with everyone, or was it just like 18 and under, or what was the age group?
They had a juvenile unit.
Okay.
But a lot of these kids were gang members and different things. So it was. I got in some fights. I had some problems. I made it through there with an idea of somehow I need to do things different. Not that what I was doing was wrong, but that I just needed to not go back to jail.
Yeah. So you didn't necessarily need to change your life.
No.
You just needed to get better so you didn't get back there.
Yeah, and there was all kinds of conversations around different types of drugs and things people were doing that I hadn't done yet. So, when they say you go to jail and it's like college, that's how I felt coming home from that.
Well, I know that does play into your story that we'll talk about later on, is that your experience in the jail system is a driver for why you want to change it, because you learned by going to jail, you learned a lot of things,
Yeah.
not necessarily good things.
No, none of it was good at that point.
Yeah.
When I got out of there, I dove right back into hanging out with older guys. A lot of them were outlaw bikers. I actually got a job as a bouncer at a bar, I think when I was 16, until I got arrested for something else and they found out how old I was. But I was like on the bar payroll at 16.
Wow.
I looked pretty much the same size, beard, tattoos, as I do now. So I surrounded myself with all these really unhealthy people with really twisted ideas about life, really bad core belief systems around different populations of people. And I kind of lived that out. And every chance I got, I was outwardly violent. But I always had this piece of me that knew like I was better, right? Like this isn't really who I am, but this is who I am for these people. And I got real good at being a chameleon, I say. You know, I'm this guy for this group of people and this guy for this group of people. I got really good at manipulating people and adjusting how I talked and presented so that I could get my needs met or get better deals on my drugs. I was definitely full-time selling cocaine at that age.
How old are you now? Like 17?
17 years old, probably 16, 17 years old.
Yeah.
So
keep going in this progression of time. 16, 17 years old. What happens
so
next?
ultimately, you know, I quit school when I was 16 or 17 and wound up moving down to Oneonta. A girl I was dating went to Oneonta College. I moved out there and I felt like I hit the jackpot because it was 4 colleges and all I did was drink and make runs home for drugs and go back and go back and forth. It was really bad, man. I totaled 2 or 3 cars out there, hitting deer and hitting trees, and my drinking and drug use just really took off.
Okay.
I started using cocaine so that I could drink longer, right? At the bars, right? I wanted to hang out with the big boys and I couldn't drink as much, so if I did some cocaine, I could drink longer.
So it counteracts it's the difference of a depressant versus a stimulant? Is that the idea?
Yeah, it kept me awake. It kept me, you know, if you're drunk and you do some cocaine, it wakes you up and you can keep drinking, right? So it was actually so I could stay out later, but that cocaine really got a hold of me. I wound up pretty much homeless in Schenectady. I remember sleeping in Vale Cemetery a few times, and people used to call me Backpack Benny. So I would show up with a backpack, and believe it or not, I would leave with $20 and come home with 200 4 days later. It was crazy. I was really good at manipulating people, and I just kept this lifestyle up for a long time.
How long was that?
So I wound up getting a job at a bar as a cook called the River House in Schenectady. It's the Lighthouse now. And I got a job cooking just so I could sell cocaine. So my buddy was the door guy checking IDs, and I would give drugs to the bartenders so they didn't care what I was doing. And I was selling massive amounts of cocaine, ounces a night. So I wound up with a 12 felony indictment for cocaine sales. 6 sales, 3 to a CI, 3 to an undercover.
CI?
Civil informant. So civilian that they turned to tell on me. And who then introduced me to an undercover cop that I sold drugs to directly 3 times.
And that's how they got you?
Yep.
What year was that?
I would say that was 2001.
Okay.
Probably 2001. So my lawyer called, the police called my mother, she called me, they were looking for me, said I had a harassment warrant. I remember calling my lawyer and saying, same lawyer I used for everything. I had probably been arrested 15 times by now for different things. Saying, hey, Glenville's looking for me, can you find out what they want? He called me back and he actually asked me, because the girl I went to Oneonta with was now in Manhattan at FIT. He said, hey, you still seeing that girl in the city? I was like, it's that bad, man? He's like, you might want to get on a train for a couple of weeks till I can figure this out. Yeah, it was pretty bad. 12 felony indictment, which means that it had already gone in front of a grand jury and they had enough to convict me.
Before you've even been arrested?
Yeah, it's an indictment, yeah.
Yeah.
So they held like a mock hearing trial around the evidence, and they said, yeah, you can proceed with these charges.
Wow. So what happened next?
So my lawyer set it up for me to walk into Glenville, get arrested, fingerprinted, and bonded out the same day. So we walked in with 20 grand, dropped it on the counter, and I walked out. But that ultimately, that's what put me in prison, man. that put me in prison for a while.
Okay, explain. What's the bonded out? You paid a...
So when you get arraigned, the judge either releases you or sets a bond amount or remands you to correction, to jail.
Okay.
So he set a bond amount of $20,000.
So you pay that, and then do you eventually get that back, or is that the state's now?
Well, you pay that, and then at the end of the case, you get it back if you pay cash.
Okay.
If you use a bondsman, then they keep 10% of that money.
But the idea is this incentivizes you from not leaving.
Correct.
Okay, so then what happened?
So I continued to use drugs and drink the whole time. Ultimately, what happened is I went to court and they gave me a plea offer of 8 years.
Okay.
So I took the 8 years. They really wanted me to roll on one of my dealers. They said, listen, you can go home tonight. You just got to go buy a pound of cocaine for us. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that. So that sense of loyalty again, now it costed me 8 years of my life.
So where did you do those 8
So
years?
at 23, I went to what's called Downstate Correctional Facility for reception. Everybody goes to like a reception prison, and then they took me up to Clinton. So
reception prison is where you are held for a period of time until they figure out where they're going to permanently have you be?
Yep, you go there, they shave your head. So the whole process, and I'm glad you asked me that. So this whole process is designed to demean people and break people, right?
Yeah.
So you get there, they put you in a holding tank from the county facility. The guards always pick one person in that holding tank to assault to show that like this is our house and you're going to follow our rules.
Like verbally assault?
No,
or
like physically assault.
Like bruised on the floor?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and then they drag them off to the box or whatever.
What's the box?
Which would be solitary confinement. So it's like where you're sitting in a cell all alone, no TV, no pencils, no nothing.
Any windows?
No.
No, nothing,
Generally
just a box.
not. Yeah,
that's why it's called a box.
Sometimes there's a little jail window in the back. It's a little square, like rectangle thing.
Yeah, so this is your introduction.
Yeah, so I was 23 years old. This was 2003. I remember that because I had, your number has the year and then the place you went, your inmate number.
Yeah.
And I remember pulling up to Downstate in the bus, and they have a wall and they have fences, right? So the Maxes have a wall and then they have a double fence, and they open the little door, the bus goes in, they close it, then they open another door. And I remember looking around, man, and that was a wake-up call, And then when I got in there and they assaulted that guy, I'm like, all right, so you can't get away with anything here. And then they say, all right, take off all those clothes. They belong to the county that brought you here. And they got all these grown men standing in the hallway in their boxers. Actually naked until they throw you a pair of boxers. Oh, man. Then you go through this process of them shaving your head and taking your identity away from you and giving you a number. Yeah.
So that was 23.
Yep. 23 years old. I sat in prison for 5 years, 5 out of 8.
Yeah. Okay, so you did 5 years.
Yep.
And then did you get paroled at that point?
I got paroled, and during that time, my parents had separated. My mother moved up to Saratoga. That's how I landed out here.
Okay.
So I was from Scotia, Schenectady area. I paroled somewhere I had never been before, to a family that was no longer together.
Yeah.
With no clue how to live life. I remember thinking that first week in prison, like, I can't have feelings and live through this. Like, I can't have empathy and compassion and worry about anybody but myself. I can't show emotion or I'll become a target. I spent months just watching everything. It's a very violent environment where anything you say, any weakness is going to be used against you.
So are there, what is that life like in there as far as, are there gangs that are just inside the prison, or does the gang life from outside come in? Is there a pecking order? Like what, on a day-to-day basis, what are you fearing?
Everything. So I went from Clinton to a place called Franklin, which is a medium. So you go from having your own cell when you close your eyes at night to being in a dorm with 60 other guys. And they just have beds lined up with little lockers,
Yeah.
And I had to watch because in every dorm there's like a head of that type of gang, right? So a shot caller per se.
Okay.
So I mean, I could list off 7 gangs. I mean, you got the Muslims and the 5%ers and the God bodies, who are all like, the Muslim religion.
Okay.
You got the Bloods, the Crips, which are the city gangs. And
Yeah.
you got the Latin Kings, the Nietas, and then the rat hunters, whose whole job in prison is to find the snitches. And yeah. And then you got the Caucasian males, right? So I was in a dorm with 60 guys, and I think there was 3 other white males.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, just learning how to navigate that life. And as you said you can't have any emotion.
No, you can't have any emotion, and you can't be outwardly against anybody, because then you align with somebody, right? And I had to pick everybody I sat with or talked to according to what they were there for. If they owed people money, because if we're walking the yard and this guy's known as a snitch, or he's a sex offender, or he's this or that, then I'm associated with him and I take on his problems.
That must have been a long 5 years.
Yes, sir.
So you got out of that and you're 27, 28?
28 years old. Yeah.
28, and you go to a family that's divided.
Yeah.
What was that like?
It was different. So I remember stopping on the way home. My mother picked me up, and this tech jump happened during that time, a lot of it, between 03 and 08, right?
Yeah.
This was like the beginning of Bluetooth and all of that.
Yeah.
So they don't do anything in corrections to keep people current. We still had payphones and,
The first iPhone came out in that time too, didn't it?
Yeah, everything.
Yeah.
Smartphones, all of it.
Yeah.
So I remember stopping at a rest stop on the way home and using the toilet, and there was no handle, man. I didn't know how to flush it. And I walked away and it flushed itself. And then I'm standing at the sink and there's no knobs. And this little kid came over and put his hand under the faucet and it turned on. And that's just like a glimpse into the differences that people coming home have to reintegrate to.
And that's only 5 years.
That's only 5 years.
Yeah. Imagine someone who's there for 20.
Yeah, it's the culture shock. So
Yeah.
I felt like I was in a movie for about 2 months. Everything was surreal. Nothing seemed real.
Yeah.
I had no emotion. I came home really hard, and I truly feel like I had to learn how to become human again when I got home from that. But I had a healthy fear of going back into that environment. So I had no clue how not to, though. That's the problem, and that's the failure of the correctional system, is they're not doing anything to educate or give anyone in there for substance use, mental health, any kind of wraparound
So
services.
they train you on how to have this be a career, a lifelong career.
Yeah, they're warehousing people. They're warehousing people. They're not getting any. There's no corrections in corrections.
Yeah.
They're just warehousing people, and then you're released with the same problems with less resources when you leave.
So let's finish the journey of, I love the story of how God meets you, and we're not there yet, so bring me there.
So I got home, I remember telling my mother, drop me off right here at Lock 5 in Schuylerville. I said, if I sit right here and fish, I can't go back to prison. That was...
What's that mean?
I knew if I was sitting there fishing, I couldn't get arrested. Like, just leave me. I would tell her, 10 o'clock at night, drop me off there, pick me up in the morning. And I would just sit there because I had no clue how to live life without committing crime, using drugs, no clue, and no one bothered to show me while I was incarcerated, right?
Yeah.
So that worked for a while. I got a job landscaping and ultimately became the foreman, and then slid down a hill with two 80-pound Versalock blocks and blew out the whole bottom of my back. So I was not using anything from when I got home in August of 08 until this happened the next season, so it was 09. I needed back surgery, right? They put me on opiates.
Yeah.
First surgery was in 09. I had the surgery, I got off the opiates, I went back to work. In 2010, I needed another one. Got on the opiates, stayed on them longer, went back to work. 2011, they did a fusion in my back, and I never got off painkillers from that. I went out on disability. I had a dependence on opiates that I had never done in my life. I had never taken an opiate in my life.
Did you know that?
No clue. So I remember taking a couple extra pills because it really hurt,
Yeah.
and then running out like 3 days early and saying to my mother, like, something's wrong, man. I don't feel good. Like, I think I got the flu. And then when I got my meds and took one and it went away, I was like, oh man, I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
I'm in trouble.
So opiates as a line, as a whole line of drugs, right? It's all based on what, poppy, the opium plant?
Yeah.
What are all the different things that are under that?
So like heroin is one of them.
Okay.
Morphine, Dilaudid, oxycodone, hydrocodone, Percocets, you know, all of that stuff.
All that's in the category of an opiate.
Correct.
So you realized that you were addicted.
Yes. And I had to find a pain management guy. So I signed a pain management contract that I was going to be on opiates the rest of my life for pain management.
Okay.
And when I was on disability at this point, I could not return to work.
Yeah.
They marked me 76% permanently disabled from that accident, that bike accident. So here I am now at what?
30 something?
30 maybe,
Yeah.
retired and crippled, right? With an opiate habit, as a person with an alcohol and cocaine issue to begin with.
At 30.
Yeah. So I got in woe is me mode and went back to drinking alcohol, and then added some benzodiazepines, which is like Xanax, Klonopins, things like that. And I just became a mess. And my whole life revolved around not being what I call dope sick or sick from not having opiates again. Fentanyl hit the scene in 2016.
Yeah.
I lost my 14 best friends in a year and a half.
From overdosing on fentanyl.
Yeah, they were all found blue on the floor somewhere in a year and a half. 14 funerals in a year and a half span of time.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and I was laying in bed repeatedly in these, like, I was sick and then trying to figure out how to fix it, to get out of bed, to take the drug, making me sicker in this opiate nightmare of needing the thing that was making me sick with chronic pain, like legit pain, right? Of needing the thing that was making me sick to get out of bed, to be sicker, and every day was this rat race of how am I gonna fix this?
Man.
Yeah, yes sir. So after burying all my friends, I was sick enough one day where I decided it would be a good idea to set up a deal to go pick up some heroin with no money. Yeah, and got arrested for armed robbery.
So your idea was to rob the dealer?
Yes, sir.
Okay, what happened?
It didn't go well, I'll tell you that. So we met this guy in a parking lot, and I proceeded to take the stuff from him and jumped in my car. As we pulled away, he jumped in the window, and half was hanging in and out, and we're fighting, and he fell off. We ran him over. I mean, it was a really bad situation. Yeah.
And the cops got involved?
22 days later, there was a knock on my door, and a cop said, I'm going to need you to come with me to talk about what happened at Hannaford. And I said, I don't know what you're talking about. I wasn't even there. And he said, well, we got a video. And I was like, well, I was there, but it didn't go that way, you know. Still in that victim, wasn't me. Yeah, so they ultimately arrested me for 4 violent felonies. Armed robbery, assault and battery with a handgun, possession of a handgun by a convicted felon, and reckless endangerment third. Yeah.
So now you're looking at going back to prison.
Oh yeah. So I was in jail, forced to detox, really dope sick. When I went to arraignment, they set the bond at $50,000 cash. My mother did bond me out. I retained a lawyer, and he told me my current offer was a 12.5 to 25 in state prison as a predicate felon.
Ouch.
Yeah. So I was sitting on my, we were talking about this. I was sitting on my porch. I had an on-deck fireplace, and I was trying to decide whether I was going to do enough dope to kill myself, or whether I was going to try and get into recovery and do the right thing and hope and pray that I didn't have to go back to prison. The very prospect of having to go back to prison scared me to death. And that type of sentence in a max prison, I don't think I ever would have came home from.
Now, talk to me about your relationship with God at this point. Is it still somewhat the same? Like, you know God exists, but you don't have a relationship with him, you're not seeking him? Like,
I know that he's there, and I've seen what he could do when I was younger, and I've seen the power of God. But bearing all my friends and being in that misery for all that time, I had pretty much sworn him off. You know,
you were in so deep.
Yeah, it was really bad. There was some Foxhole prayers of, you know, help me figure out a way to not be sick and all whatever.
Yeah.
You name it. But no real faith at that point. So I'm sitting on my porch and I'm trying to make this decision, and I was really leaning towards jumping off a bridge or something. And I looked up and I said, God, if you have a plan for me, if there's a future for me, I need to know. I need to see something. And man, this stray cat that lives where I live, I had built little igloos for him in the winter, you know, but he climbed up on that porch, man, and jumped in my lap and completely de-escalated me. In that moment, he completely de-escalated me. And at that minute, I decided, like, number one, to rescue the cat. I took the cat inside with me. And number two, that I was going to dig in and give this a shot.
So do you think that was God?
100%.
What was he saying?
He told me I was worth it.
Yeah.
You're worthy and you're worth it. Because I remember when I was sitting in jail, so sick I could barely walk, I went to church and I asked the pastor, I think they were from New Hope, that was coming in, and I said, how do I get these tapes in my head to stop playing, man? Because all the carnage of 36 years of my life is now in my lap, and I can't numb it. You know, everything I've ever done to anybody, all the promises I broke, all the stuff I stole, all the things, all the family stuff, it was just front and center. Yeah. And he said to me, man, would you do those things standing here in front of me right now? And I said, no, it was all to get or use drugs or because I was under the influence. And he said, then you need to separate who you are from who you are when you add the substances, you know? And that's the only relief I had in that 3 days, was that conversation with him.
A new creation.
Yeah, yeah.
So what happened after the cat came and sat on your lap and God said, I got something for you?
Well, I did a bunch of things. So first I went and got on what's called Suboxone, or buprenorphine, right?
Okay.
Which is a medication for addiction treatment. It curbs the being sick from opiates.
Okay.
And it allows people to retain information, get into treatment. You know, if I'm sitting here throwing up and can't lift my head, I can't do anything good.
Yeah.
So this medication really gave me a bridge to get into recovery. So that was the first thing I did, because that mental obsession with fixing the dope sick will take me back out. I can't get through it.
But once you're at that level, you have little control. The drug is controlling you, and the addiction is so powerful that...
Yeah, so that in essence gave me some control back, right,
Okay.
of my actions and what I was going to do.
Yeah.
I went up to Gospel Lighthouse Church and started going there.
Yeah.
Every week. I started going to Healing Springs. I heard about this recovery center, never knew what it was. Every treatment center I ever been to, you walk in, they diagnose you and tell you, these are the things you need to do to get well, right?
Here's a list of things. Go do that.
Go do this and you'll be just fine, right?
Yeah.
So I walked in there and heard this term peer professional, right? And I was like, what is that? And they told me, like, we're all in recovery. We took the training and got certified to be able to empower and walk with other people on their recovery journey to the goals that you want to achieve, right?
So they're people that have walked that path that you are walking.
Correct, and with a Me Too statement. We're not going to ask somebody, why'd you do that? Because I know, I did it. You know what I mean? And the judgment's not there.
Yeah.
So I started utilizing Healing Springs for supports, going to mutual aid meetings, Celebrate Recovery. I was going up in Glens Falls. I was going to AA, I was going to church, and I was going to the recovery center while I was looking at doing, I mean, realistically, the rest of my life in jail.
Yeah.
Right? So that carried for about 5 months.
Okay.
All right. I called my lawyer in the morning that we had court. I said, that offer come down. He said, they're offering 10 years. I'm like, I'm not signing that. I mean, right, I can't sign that. So I got to court. We put in some motions to dismiss the violent felonies due to lack of evidence. There was no weapon, right? There's no weapon on camera. There's no search warrant for a weapon. There's no weapon. There's no weapon, but I have these 3 violent weapons charges that are going to give me the rest of my life. God threw me a bone. They dismissed all the violent felonies, downgraded the charge to assault third, a misdemeanor, and I took a 6-month plea offer.
Wow.
From 12 and a half to 25.
Wow.
Yeah.
The rest of your life, basically, to 6 months.
Yep.
Wow.
To 6 months.
What did you feel like when you walked out of that room?
That I was starting to do what I was supposed to do. That God was looking out for me and that I was starting to get somewhere.
You saw a way forward. You saw a light.
Yeah, I saw a light.
Yeah.
I did. The actual like faith transition and depth comes in while I was incarcerated. Right?
Okay.
So I wound up going in January of 18. The arrest was in July of 17. So I had to go into jail from January to April of 2018.
Where were you?
Saratoga
County
Correctional Facility. Again, they had no MAT program, so they weren't giving anyone
MAT?
medication-assisted treatment. So no one was getting any Suboxone, methadone, any of the medications to help with withdrawal.
So they're coming in and they're going to full withdrawals.
Yep, throwing up on the floor. I mean, it's terrible, man. Yeah, it's really bad. Even if you have prescriptions from doctors, they would not continue them at that time in the correctional facilities. So I go in there and came off of that forcefully, which wasn't great.
It would have been worse had you not been on the Suboxone, though. Right?
Yeah, if the detox would have been worse from the actual street opiates than the Suboxone.
Yeah.
But the Suboxone is still an opioid, so you're still going to be sick.
Yep.
So I got a package, right, for some people I met at Gospel Lighthouse that had a Celebrate Recovery Bible, an AA book, an AA step work book, and a book called Man's Search for Meaning.
Yeah.
Also, it had this little printed handout, something called the Starfish Story, right? So I'm going to get to that in a second.
Okay.
So I started reading, number 1, the Celebrate Recovery Bible, but number 2, this book, Man's Search for Meaning, and it's written by Viktor Frankl, who's a Holocaust survivor, but it's not necessarily about the events of the Holocaust. It's about the mindset of the individuals who made it compared to the ones who didn't and what they held on to, right? And there's a saying, it's on my Facebook, we talked about it the other day, and it says, suffering in and of itself has no meaning. We give our suffering meaning by the way in which we respond to it, right? So I'm jotting these quotes down.
Yeah.
The next quote says, everything can be taken from a man but one thing, his right to choose how he's going to act in any given set of circumstances. He can remain brave, dignified, and unselfish, or in the bitter fight for self-preservation, become no more than an animal.
Yeah.
Which speaks totally to the prison experience.
Yeah.
Right? And
no emotion.
Because I felt freer during this incarceration than I have ever felt in my life.
Even when you were out
behind
free.
the wall.
Yeah.
Right? Because I wasn't a slave to drugs. I wasn't preoccupied with fighting or the politics of the jail, any of it. Right? I was solely focused on me and my wellness, forward motion, and God. Right? So I started writing these quotes, and I would read them every morning because my default is to do the wrong thing. Right? So this is keeping me focused. I started a little Bible study with the Celebrate Recovery Bible. I started a book club with that book. I was handing it to guys, right? And then the other thing in there was the Starfish Story, and I'm going to quote it if you don't mind.
Please.
It says, a man's walking down to the beach one day, and off in the distance he sees something that looks like a ballerina dancing. As he gets closer, he realizes that it's a little girl picking up and throwing starfish back in the ocean. So he walks over and says, little girl, what are you doing? She said, the tide went out and there's thousands of starfish on the beach. If I don't throw them back, they'll die. And he's like, how could you possibly make a difference? There's miles of beach and thousands of starfish. So she looks at her hand, looks him in the eyes, throws it back and says it made a difference for that one, right? So that showed me that quality, not quantity, is the goal.
Yeah.
Number 1, every soul matters. And I'll tell you what, man, a combination of these things lit a fire in me, and I started having conversations with God, and there is no doubt in my mind what I was supposed to do leaving this jail. right? The day that I got released, I turned around and said to this group of guys, I'm going to come back to corrections and I'm going to make a difference. I'm going to change this system. I'm going to bring in some programs. I'm going to do something. And the guard sitting there, the CO, the corrections officer, looked at me and said, yeah, right, Deebs, you'll be high tonight. I said, that's exactly why, man. Why would you put down a guy leaving with a positive mindset with a comment like that, right?
Because once a criminal, always a criminal.
In their mind, we're bad people, not sick people.
Yeah.
You know, the mindset of the jail is house and punish. And my future push for the last, I don't know, 7 going on 8 years has been to change house and punish to educate and rehabilitate.
House and punish, like punish them and wall them in.
Yeah.
That's the system as it is.
That's right.
And your goal is what?
Educate and rehabilitate.
So that when they leave the system,
that they've gotten the support, the therapy, the education, and the needs met to be successful.
to have a step to stand on, to have a starting point at a new life, as opposed to just going back to the exact same life that they got incarcerated for.
100%. 85% of the incarceral population has either substance use disorder or mental health or a combination of both. Yet there is zero supports for people, education, anything, any wraparound services for people so that they leave stable.
So you walked out of there, you said that to the CO, I'll be back, I'm gonna make a difference, and he says, Deebs, you're gonna be high tonight. What happened?
I did just that, man. I went back to Healing Springs. There was a group called Recovery Advocacy in Saratoga. I went to their next meeting. They literally were forming a subcommittee to try and figure out how to get into the Saratoga County Correctional Facility to meet with people and deliver services. I joined that committee. The family support navigator from Healing Springs got permission to put a Families Recover Together table in the visit waiting room. So he was engaging with the families that were visiting the incarcerated individuals around like daycare assistance, food pantries. We were Narcan training people, things like that.
Narcan?
Narcan is an overdose reversal drug that will bring someone back. That's even if they're blue pretty much, as long as there's still some life, and then it'll bring them back from an overdose.
So this is not in the prison, but it's like in the waiting area for visitors going to see people who are in the prison.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he called me and he said, hey man, I've been doing this table, and one of the family members asked if I would go in and talk to their incarcerated loved one. He's like, I don't have that experience. Would you mind doing that? And I said, absolutely. And how'd you get that table, and how do I get a seat, right? So I went there to visit that guy and never walked away. So I literally sat at that table voluntarily, unpaid, every day, talking to the people that were going in to visit people, letting them know I was willing to talk to the people that were visiting. And then they would come out and say, all right, my son or my husband's willing to talk to you. And I would go in during their visit times, talk to them, try and talk about recovery and how to overcome barriers.
So talk to me about what that experience was like, going back into the jail that you just left, where the guys that were your peers, you're now coming in to advise and be a counselor towards.
Yeah, so some of them knew me, and they're like, wait, didn't you just leave here? Because I'm talking, I got out in April, and this is September of the same year, right? So I was seeing some of the guys were still there, and I'm talking to them, and they're like, you're still in recovery? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, what are you doing? So it gave testament to the fact that it was possible.
Yeah.
It was brutal going in and sitting on the other side of the visit wall, right? But it wasn't as bad as when I get downstairs. So I'm going to talk about that in a minute.
Yeah.
So I'm hearing from all these COs that I can see it, right? I can see them talking about me. They're like, why are we letting this guy into these visits? They can't stop me because it was their scheduled visit times. But this demand became huge. Like, people wanted to talk to me. They needed someone to talk to.
Yeah. And someone who had sat on that side of the glass.
Yeah.
Someone who had your experience and who was in recovery.
Yeah. So me and the family navigator wrote a proposal to the sheriff and the jail administrator and shot this little video about like who I was, what a certified recovery peer advocate was, and what we were hoping to do for the population.
Yeah.
Set up a meeting. We were explaining to them how many people I had seen and what we were doing. the jail administrator asked him, so you work for Healing Springs? He said, yeah. And he said, who pays you? And I said, I don't get paid. He's like, you've been here for months. He's like, nobody pays you? And I said, no. He said, so I saw him jotting something, and at the end of the meeting, he's like, so this is what we're going to do. I'm going to offer you a job. I'm going to back pay you from the day you walked in, and I'm going to give you a desk and booking. And gave me a job and allowed me downstairs into the jail.
What a blessing.
Yeah.
How did that make you feel?
I was blown away. Number one, because that guy, Colonel Emery, his name is Richard Emery, was taking a shot on me.
Yeah.
I had only been
Huge
out
risk.
since April.
Yeah.
And this meeting was in December of the same year.
But he saw what was happening. He witnessed the number of people who were having conversations with you, learning, and you're giving them hope. So what happened when you went downstairs?
So...
And what does downstairs mean?
So the visit room is upstairs, and then there's a door, and you go down, and then you're in booking, like you're in the jail. So they gave me a desk, like right where everybody comes in, and they get fingerprinted and booked in and change their clothes and stuff. It's traumatic, man, because every time I heard the door shut, every time I heard the keys jingle, the smell of the place, everything, the way they talk to people, not to mention that there was a lot of pushback because they didn't like me. I was just there, right? So the COs that were telling me to lock in and calling me names are now coworkers in essence, right?
Yeah, because you're now paid by the jail.
By the sheriff's department.
You are coworkers.
Yeah. So I would walk in the CO break room, they'd all get up and leave. I would round a corner and they'd be like, I can't believe they're letting this convict walk around in here. The jail administrator called me upstairs and he's like, hey, anytime you leave, your area, make sure your filing cabinets are locked and stuff. And I'm like, it's that bad? He's like, I'm hearing rumblings. All they got to do is throw an 8-ball in your filing cabinet, walk the drug dog by, and you're finished.
What's that mean? An 8-ball?
3.5 grams of cocaine or, drugs. So all they'd have to do is walk the dog by that targets my area, and then I would be banned from coming in there and probably arrested. So
man, that right there just shows the prejudice that you were talking about, how once a criminal, always a criminal, and not a good person never can be a good person.
Yeah. I truly believe that God placed me there in that place because of the admin support. So culture change in corrections has to come top down. And I had the sheriff and the jail administrator's support.
Yeah.
And they put me there, right? So I had his ear and I'd be like, this is what I'm hearing. And then he would call them up and say, I don't want to hear you disparaging this program or what he's doing, right? So we had 4 individuals that were forced off their medications, their MAT, leave and have fatal overdoses, like within a week of leaving the jail. And then there was a court case in Mass where someone was denied access to their methadone, who also died. And so they sued that jail and won for denying the medication that was proven a medical need in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
So I used that case and these 4 people, I'm giving their lost purpose at this point, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I took it to the administration and I said, hey, this is what's happening. This is coming. We're going to get sued. What would it look like for you to allow me to build out a medication-assisted treatment program here so that we can continue people on their medication?
So this is the Suboxone?
Yep.
Okay, so what happened?
So right up until this point, they were just taking everybody off. He told me, put something together and let me know what it looks like. So I created a continuum of care agreement, is what I like to call it. So it's a document that we send to the provider that's prescribing the medication that they're agreeing to take them back on release, and then the jail would agree to continue the medication.
Okay.
And we started doing continuations of that medication. With that, though, I said, we can't just give people medication. So I'm trying to build things out, right? We can't just give people medication. We need to provide some wraparound support. And he said, well, what are you thinking? And I said, well, how about I set up a meeting with some community service providers and bring all the human service agencies in Saratoga to the meeting and have them do pitches on what they'd like to offer to the population. Yeah. So we set that meeting up at Healing Springs, had 14 different agencies come in. We bought lunch and had them do like 10-minute pitches on what they wanted to offer. And then we had a meeting about the meeting. And decided who we were going to use and brought in 10 hours a week of wraparound programs.
So now the incarcerated individual who is still likely has drugs or alcohol in their system is now able to get a drug to be able to help them come down off of that. Now, would they, while they were incarcerated, is the idea to have them slowly come down off of the...
So the idea of Suboxone is person-centered. So
Okay, yeah, it's
some
unique.
people use it for detox, just to curb the detox symptoms,
Yeah.
And get support, and some people are on it for years.
Yeah.
So that's why they call it medication-assisted treatment. So while someone's building their recovery supports, while they're getting clinical therapy, while they're rebuilding their life, this medication is an additional support for them.
But ultimately, the mind is what needs the help.
Correct, 100%.
And that's where the meeting with at Healing Springs, where you had all these different organizations come in and pitch what they were going to do. Which one did you end up going with, and what did they do?
So they did a lot. So we brought in Captain, Youth and Family. They run a youth shelter. They do street outreach. They have all kinds of programs. They came in and did something called Getting Ahead. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Getting Ahead While Getting Out, which is a Bridges Out of Poverty training for individuals that are incarcerated.
Okay.
It's literally designed in like as an incarcerated person type language.
Yeah.
Around budgeting, how to do a tax return, social capital, life skills.
Yeah.
Life skills. We brought in yoga and meditation. We brought in tablets, so that everybody could have access to tablets and FaceTime ports.
Oh, wow.
So all that childhood, the trauma of the children and the mental health of the individual got better.
Yeah.
Because now you don't have to miss your kid's birthday. Now you don't have to miss Christmas morning. You can literally FaceTime. You can read a book to them. You can talk to your kids.
And then also think about what that would be like being in prison now, knowing that you are missing Christmas morning, but you're able to be part of it. But as opposed to being that stone cold, unemotional person, it's like, my son is there, my daughter is there, I'm here, I can't come back here, I need to change, versus being that no emotion.
Yeah, because that's just going to drive violent behavior, aggression, because you're not there, and then the child is suffering because you're not there.
Well, that might start their story.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. There's something called adverse childhood experiences, or ACEs, and there's literally a 10-question score sheet. I score 6 on there out of 10 for my childhood that drove my addiction, and in my future, realistically. Some people score all. They ask questions like, do you have a parent that struggles from a mental health illness, a parent with substance use, was there domestic violence, was there any abuse or neglect? And all of these things play into health outcomes like cancer and suicidality, and so there's a direct correlation between childhood trauma and health and addiction outcomes.
Well, those traumas that they experience, especially as a child, you don't know how to cope with that. And so drugs, addiction, you're putting a Band-Aid over something that needs to eventually be dealt with. And ultimately, understanding who you are to God.
Yep.
As a child of God who loves you regardless of that past. Because we look at parents and we expect our fathers to give us what we should look to God for. And I would imagine that once you see your Heavenly Father loves you regardless of what's happened in your past, your Heavenly Father forgives you for everything that you've done and is there for you and will walk you through this next step. That's the foundation that allows people to realize, wow, I should stop worrying about serving myself and worry about serving Him.
Yeah, my whole view went from inward to outward.
Yeah.
And trust me, I prayed every day in that jail. And I prayed in the parking lot for God to lead to me the people He wanted to help, because there's 220 people in there and one of me, right? I looked at the numbers the year before I got there. A big part of my job was what I call predisposition intervention for alternatives to incarceration. So
that's a big title. Explain that.
Shorten that. I got involved with people who are in jail for substance use-based crime, advocated with their attorneys and the prosecutor to get them into treatment instead of jail or prison.
Yeah.
Right. The year before I got there, only 12 people left that jail to treatment centers. My first year, 100 people went to treatment instead of going to jail or prison, because I was putting faces to files and humanizing people.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to see something on paper and clear a docket and send them back to jail. But I would sit down and say, I know how this looks on paper, however, can we have a conversation?
So from the perspective of the health of the individuals, they're not in jail, they're going to rehab, they have a better shot. I'm curious about also the cost.
Of
The cost to the taxpayer, the cost of incarcerating a person and paying for everything versus them living on their own and going through rehab or going to a full...
I believe the last time I checked, it was $300 a day to house someone in jail.
$300 a day.
Yeah.
That's a decent hotel.
Yeah, it's $300 a day to house someone in jail.
Okay.
So, but you got to understand too, there's this mindset that the Department of Corrections is a business, right?
That is the mindset, or that's what it is?
Well, in reality, the Department of Corrections is a business. Think about all the corrections officers and the whole structure and the buildings, and it's a business. The parole boards that when people violate, the parole officers are employed by docs, and I mean it's a business, right?
Meaning that there are a lot of mouths that are fed through this system.
Through having people incarcerated.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And historically, with the war on drugs, the Nixon administration, the Reagan Just Say No, right? They deemed people who use drugs as bad people.
Yeah.
We have a moral failing. It was our choice. They're bad people and we're dangerous. Right?
Just get rid of them.
So the correctional system is designed in a way to house and punish people. You're a bad person. You made a choice. Deal with it. You don't like it in jail. Don't come back. Is the general attitude.
Yeah.
There's no conversation around why someone's in jail, right? What brought you here? Why did you come back? Well, maybe because you released them in January in flip-flops with nowhere to sleep and no food because they came in June. No one cares. They're just releasing people in January in flip-flops with nowhere to go, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So that person has to survive. They go into survival mode and they default to what they know how to do.
So walk me through, I mean, that time frame. You go back in, you get the seat downstairs, you bring in these different facilities. Now walk me from that point to today, which is, what is this, 8 years, 12 years?
Well, I mean, we're talking, I got that job in the jail December of 18.
Okay.
So we're coming up, I mean, it's been 7 years.
Yeah.
In the field, I guess.
Yeah.
So the next thing we did, bail reform hit in New York, right? So bail reform hit in New York. A lot of people were let out on offenses that were no longer qualifying offenses for bail to be set. So people that were incarcerated for DWIs, petty larceny, they were all let out. Okay. Because they can't incarcerate those people pending case outcome anymore.
Okay.
So it gave us some space. So I approached the jail administrator again and I said, that unit would be a real good unit to take everyone who wants recovery and put them together. So let's create a recovery unit
in the prison,
in the jail. I said one of my main barriers to forward motion with people in the correctional facility is the environment. You can't get vulnerable, you can't get honest. Group participation is very low because anything they say, someone's going to throw back at them. So let's take everybody who wants to do well and put them together, right? They rehabbed the unit, spent like $200,000, and they gave me a veteran and recovery unit. So we brought the veterans in and everybody that was on MAT and housed them in one unit. Then we brought all those service providers right in that unit to run groups. So they walked right in, they would circle up the chairs, they were running groups right in the jail unit.
Yeah.
And I had a radio and free access. I would go down, eat lunch with the guys, coach, do goal plans and all kinds of stuff.
What have you seen come from that?
Oh, huge, man. We've been tracking the it's a hard word to say, recidivism rate since the start of this program.
What is recidivism?
Recidivism is rearrest. The
Okay.
rearrest and return to corrections rates, right? Nationally, they're 45% in the first year. So
45% of the people who leave come back.
Yes, in the first year, 85% in the first 5.
Seriously?
Yeah. So we've been tracking this since 2018. The recidivism rate in Saratoga has not gotten above 16%, with their best year being 10.
Wow.
So
that's got to be getting some attention outside of Saratoga.
That's what brought Oasis in to do a site visit.
What's Oasis?
Oasis is the Office of Addiction Services and Supports. They oversee all substance use treatment in the state of New York, set policy, things like that.
Yeah.
So they came in and viewed it, and they were like, this is what corrections needs to look like. So the next thing that happened was, I mean, I'm giving you a little like justice advancement knowledge, but there was an MAT legislation that went out way after us. So
MAT, you already gave me that one.
Medication-assisted treatment legislation went out stating that every jail in the state of New York had to do inductions on MAT for people who were identified to have opioid use disorder. So anyone that needed the medication, they're mandating has access in every facility in the state, right?
Wow.
So Oasis and the Corrections Commission did an audit of all the jails a year later, and anyone who's out of compliance with programs or doing that, they're sending to Saratoga to sit with us for a meeting on how to take our model back and implement it. Wow. So we've had 7 or 8 meetings with other county jails that are now using the same model.
Praise God.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, and every day I said, plant my feet, show me what's next. Because I'll tell you what, man, I had imposter syndrome. I didn't feel like I belonged. I felt like I wasn't smart enough, good enough. Who am I to think I can change this system?
No one's going to listen. Right there.
Yeah, it was trying to take me out, man.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to listen to me. Everybody's smarter than me. I had never done anything on this scale with this amount of professionals. So the people I'm talking to are law enforcement, judges, the corrections, the educators. I mean, and I felt like everybody was smarter than me, and like I was faking it till I made it. But I leaned into God. I remember they keynoted me at this conference called Education and Corrections Conference, and every educator from every jail in the state of New York was there, and I had to talk to all of them. And I went outside. And threw up, man, and then played You Make Me Brave.
Yeah.
And walked back in and killed it, man.
Yeah.
And just, there was like 900 people in this room. But I lean into God. I don't, like I told you, I don't prepare when I speak because then it's scripted. Like I want it to be authentic.
Yeah.
And
I'm sorry, just what immediately came to my mind is when the guys go before the Sanhedrin and in Acts, and they're like, these guys are fishermen, but yet they're so well educated, and they know the Bible, and there's something different, and they knew that they had been with Jesus. These uneducated, blue collar nobodies, but yet they're nailing it because it's the Holy Spirit working in them.
Yeah, I'm not smart enough to achieve what I achieved.
Amen.
He made me who I am.
Awesome. So talk to me about the future.
The future of
of Benjamin Deeb.
I mean, so I'm realistically, my mission now is macro. So, I want to change the culture of corrections statewide.
Yeah.
Right. I'm training more of, I don't want to say of me because that sounds egotistical, but I was the first peer in a correctional facility in the state. I had to figure it out as I went. There was no script. I had to shoot from the hip. I had to figure out the environment. I had to figure out how to build programs, how to do my job in that environment. Yeah. That's why I wrote that training, because I took everything I wish I knew, everything I learned, and put it together to prepare people for the environment and to be impactful, right?
So now you're looking at opportunities to repeat that, to take somebody who God taps on their shoulder and inspires them to be an assistant, a peer advocate in another prison.
Yes, and that's exactly what I'm doing, and I'm working with the court system to change that as well.
Well, I do have to say, the reason why we're sitting right here, you and I met at a Fold event a while ago, and I, we spoke briefly, and somebody else was there and said, yeah, he's got a great story, and just doing this. But then a friend of mine, he and I went on a hike, and he is in a Celebrate Recovery system helping others. And he's like, man, it is amazing talking to people who Ben Deeb has helped through this system. And he kept talking about not you, but about other individuals who are standing on their feet because of what God is doing through you. And then I said, the reason why we do these apostle talks is God needs to tap on my shoulder and say, we need to tell the story of what I'm doing through this guy so that other people can hear it. So as we wrap up, I would love to hear words of encouragement or advice that you might give, because there's a lot of different people that are in different scenarios that can take this message from so many different perspectives. So let's take the incarcerated first of all, for a person who, from the person who is in jail, who feels like, okay, this is going to be the rest of my life, and then their family. So what advice would you give to that person who is...
The same advice I give them every day. Your past doesn't define you. It's not who you are. And the only limits on your life is what you set on yourself. Self-talk is real. And like, there's a way out and there's life after incarceration and addiction. And I walk in there every day as testament to what's possible. All I want to be for people is that lighthouse, to plant the seed. It's my job to plant them. It's God's to cultivate them, right?
Yeah.
I plant the seed that there's more for you and that you can be something new. And then if God wants to use them or when he wants to use them, he will, right? The family, we have family support navigators at Healing Springs that can work with them around how to heal despite the actions of others, right? Because they can't fix us. They will go down the drain as quick as us trying to fix us. It's an inside job. It's between us and God. And when we're ready and we've had enough, we dig in and we succeed. But the family can support their loved ones by getting support for themselves and by not micromanaging every move. And then
You got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to
you
do
look
this.
a little tired, you all right? Where were you? You're 5 minutes late. All that, because that's not doing anything good.
Well, it's just going to make the person want to
Yeah, it's too much.
get out of that. But I can't imagine what it must be like to be a family member. I've got a young son, 13 months old, little tiny guy, and he has just rocked my world, completely rocked my world. I didn't even know what love really was until I had this kid. I love my wife,
Amen.
Yes, but you have a son as well.
Yep, he's 15.
Yeah, he's 15.
Amen.
And the idea of one day him on a drug addiction, I would throw myself through a wall or in front of a train, anything to be able to help him get off of that. And that's just me thinking about it, not having it, and he's 13 months old. But that's just me. I can't imagine what it'd be like to have your child, someone that you love so deeply, in such a turmoil, in such a hard place. It's great that Healing Springs has resources to help them cope with that, because that's got to be brutal.
Yeah, we have support groups. I mean, one end of our business is prevention, so they're in the schools, and then we do recovery and family.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's there's the 3 C's. There's a group called NAR-Anon, which is like Narcotics Anonymous for the family.
Yeah.
So like Al-Anon is for AA, is NAR-Anon for NA.
Okay.
They have a saying, it's the 3 C's. You didn't cause it, you can't control it, and you can't cure it. And if trying to get a family member to stop trying to save their loved one it's reverse parenting, right? I remember seeing a meme, and it was like, there was a guy laying on the ground and someone was reaching down for him, and then God's up here and there's a bubble that says, don't pick him up. It took me 10 years to get him there. That's powerful, man.
Whoa, yeah.
It's powerful, because the whole time that I was being broken and pruned, if someone had saved me, I wouldn't be sitting here. I had to go through what I went through to be able to do what I'm doing now.
The Lord disciplines those he loves.
100%, man.
Yeah.
I had to go through it, or I wouldn't understand the system as intimately as I do. I wouldn't have the empathy and compassion I do for the population, because adversity is real. And when those guys were talking about me, I took 2 shirts a day to work for like 6 months, because I had to change out of one by lunch because I was sweating through it from the trauma of the environment. I would have gave up.
So now, what advice would you give to a person who's not incarcerated, who's not in jail, but is addicted? What advice would you give to them?
That it's possible to recover, because I'll tell you, I was street homeless, shooting dope, crying, and I'm sitting here now helping people. So there's help. Come to Healing Springs. Come and talk to me. You know, I'm the supervisor there. We have great coaches. The Me Too statement will help you reach and set your goals.
What's that?
What's that?
The Me Too statement.
Me too, like when someone says, I'm struggling with alcohol, and I can say me too. So that Me Too statement is a trust bond builder, that I'm not judging you, I understand. I never ask people why you did it. I did it. So like, we're here to help you, whatever it is you want. We're not here to force people to go to rehab. We're not here to force anything on anybody. And that's the difference between peer professionals and treatment. Because treatment's going to say, this is your diagnosis, this is what you need to do. And I was always like, not doing that.
Yeah.
You know, we use motivational interviewing to talk about where you've been, where you want to get, and then we make sure you know every way to get there.
So I'm curious, knowing that we do have these cameras, do you want to speak directly to somebody? Like, what advice would you give to a person who's sitting there looking at their phone, their tablet, their laptop?
That's struggling?
Yeah.
You deserve to recover. The things you've done aren't too bad. God's grace can touch us all. And there's people you can come alongside you that'll ask how you're doing and not tell you, yeah, I got a thing. Recovery is possible. You can be sitting here just like I am if you follow your passion and lean in.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you. The last question I have for you is, how can people support you and support the work that you're doing? There's obviously the first one and the most important one in my mind is prayer. Very, very valuable. More than the money that they can give is to
100%,
pray.
100%.
So what prayer requests would you have? What can they pray for?
I think I pray every night for God to touch the hearts and minds of the people that are struggling, to bring them closer to Him, and then to lead me to those that are seeking Him.
Yeah, lead people like you, even not just you, because it can't be just you.
It's all of us. It could be all of us.
Yeah.
You know, but I find, and I hate to say it this way, but I find that people spend time helping populations that they see as deserving, right? The unhoused population, the incarcerated population, there's a bias that people have. They're dangerous, they're not worthy, you chose this, whatever that looks like, but they're quick to help a widow or an orphan or people that they see as more deserving. I would say lean in to God, overcome your bias, and see people as human beings across the board, and figure out ways to get involved with everyone.
Beautiful. I'm going to pray for you in just a second. Is there a way that people could give financially to any of these nonprofits, et cetera? What would you recommend in that regard?
Yeah, so I mean, Healing Springs, we could always use donations. The current, I'm not getting political, but the current landscape of the government is definitely cutting back our funding. Right?
Okay. So where can they go? What's the website?
I knew you were going to ask me that.
I can just make it appear. If you don't know what it is, I can just make it appear right here.
The Prevention Council of Saratoga, so I can't, I don't know.
No, it's fine. It's right here for everyone who's watching. And if they're listening to this on a podcast, if they click on description, there'll be a hyperlink.
All right.
Yeah, technology's great.
And the shelters of Saratoga.
Yeah, shelters of Saratoga.
We pre-screen anyone who's unhoused or returning to a domestic violence situation or was living with their dealer or does not have a safe place to go. We utilize the shelter of Saratoga. They have a great program, a great model. Stephanie Romeo is a great program manager, so they're willing to pre-screen our people for housing, and then they do case and care management, connect them to housing. Shelters of Saratoga is a great partner.
Beautiful. If you are listening or watching this right now, I invite you to join me in a time of prayer. Lord, thank you. Thank you for just the story of you working in Ben's life. Thank you for giving him that light and that hope and giving him the courage and the strength to walk the path that he's walked. Thank you for the lives that you have touched through him. And Lord, I pray for the individuals that he is now training and the curriculum and the programs that you are now implementing through him. Lord, I pray that they find success. I pray that they find easy access into the state facilities. I also pray for those people who are incarcerated, Lord, that they would seek you and find you, and that they would allow you to change them from the inside out to be the men and women that you want them to be. Lord, for the family members, Lord, I pray that you will give them hope and strength to just endure this. And Lord, for those people who are addicted to substances, Lord, those individuals who are using whatever it might be as a Band-Aid to cover up whatever the hurt is, Lord, I pray that they would seek you and realize you are the healer. You will solve whatever it is they're trying to cover up with that addiction. You will cut in deep, because sometimes surgery is painful and you have to use a scalpel. But Lord, I pray that they would have the courage to allow you to use your scalpel to change them. Lord, that's a prayer I have for myself, that you will, and for everyone, is that you will cut out what should not be there that's of me, and that you will replace it with you. That's my prayer for everyone who is watching this, listening to this. Lord, thank you that you don't just leave us in a jail cell and just say, okay, you've screwed up too many times, I'm done with you. But Lord, you are always there when we turn to you. Thank you for your story, Lord. Thank you for loving us. Pray all this in Jesus' name.
Amen.
Amen. Ben,
Amen.
thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. I am excited to hear where you're at in 5 years, where you're at in 10 years. So maybe we'll have to do a follow-up and give an update. But God bless you, brother. I'm excited to hear what God continues to do through you.
Thank you.
This has been a production of Iron Sheep Ministries.